bit of my crazy personality. But hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much to everyone who has watched my previous video. Your comments, the liking, subscribing, sharing, it has been phenomenal. Your feedback, thank you everyone. Like literally it meant so much to see, read, even to hear, some of the testimonials. People are coming out and saying to me, do you know what, Monique, thank you for coming out. This is something that I struggled with too. Not even I struggled with, but this is something that, I've gone through, I'm going through. And it felt really good. Not that other people are going through it, but people are willing to talk about it. That's what I like. My whole main aim of this, and with the help of you guys, I know social media spreads like wildfire. Anything can go out. But with the help of you guys, I just wanted to help raise awareness to the growing problems of mental health, especially in the Black community. I feel like we're doing a little, we're getting there, and I just don't ever want to hit a glass ceiling. I don't want, it to be left to like people like Frank Bruno, who is very open about his mental health. I've forgotten her name. She's a Hollywood actress. Gosh, her name's gone out my head. When I find it, I'll let you guys know. I probably won't, but there's another American actress who's got bipolar. Phenomenal Black lady. I can't remember her name. It's not Felicia. What movie? Anyway, she stars in some movies, but she's amazing. It's not down to just them. It's down to regular schmegular, my Cardi B side coming out, but it's down to regular people like you and I, not saying they're not regular people, but people who aren't in the public eye, who have these problems, who are going to share and talk about it. It's down to us to help spread awareness about it. Do you understand what I mean? So that's one of my main goals, is to spread awareness and keep it. I don't ever want to be silent about mental health. I don't want it to ever just be, oh, mental health. Okay, I want it to always be an ever current, like Brexit. I want it to be an ever current topic that's spoken about, because it needs to be, until it gets to a place where everyone's talking about it, where everyone can help recognize signs, where we're not just leaving it to like doctors and nurses and waiting for the last minute for people to, crumble and fall. And that's when we will realize, oh, it's a mental health issue. Okay, so you don't have to be, I'm going to go straight into this. You don't have to be a doctor to recognize, obviously a doctor will diagnose. That's what they do. Psychologists, psychotherapists, all those people will analyze and assess a person to see what mental health or what treatment, what diagnosis they have. But you don't have to be a trained professional to recognize the symptoms. Do you understand? I mean, for me, I don't know. I think because I've studied psychology and I'm around, people with mental health a lot. Like even at work sometimes, or at previous jobs, I can look at somebody and be like, they're relapsing. These are the warning signs. They're relapsing. There's something not right about it. Where people will be like, but you've just met this person. And I'm just like, but the warning signs, like there's things that you can notice. This video is perceptions and signs. Perceptions and signs. I'll give a small testimonial. I remember when somebody very dear to me was growing up and had mental health. It was called attention seeking. It was, oh, this person just seeking attention, as it is. Typical Black community, not typical, because I've met some Black families who are on their mental health game, like on it, like wanting to know, research. That's one thing Black people we don't do. We don't research enough. We research all the stupid stuff, but the key fundamentals, some of us don't research. And if we did, we'd be very clued up. More clued up than we are now. Corporately, we would be. But when she was going through her mental health, she was just seen to have attention, to be attention seeking. Of course, if somebody back then could have noticed the signs, maybe this isn't attention seeking, maybe it is an actual problem. Let's try and get help. Who knows? She could be a bit further along than she is today. It may be her illness when she did start to get unwell. Maybe if it was caught at an early stage, maybe it wouldn't have got so bad. Who knows? But that's just my thing. Treating anything early or catching something early, picking up the warning signs early, gives you more room, a bit more leverage to kind of go and get help and go and, fix the problem before it becomes a bigger issue. It's like a fire. If there's a small fire in your house, you're not going to leave it. You're going to get a fire extinguisher, You're going to try and put it out. You're going to do all preventable measures to get rid of that fire, to stop it from spreading. That's just like with anything. If you leave an issue for too long, what then tends to happen, it gets worse and worse and worse until it's like, okay, we have to do the last kind of plan of resort. And that's a bit like mental health. If you at home notice the warning signs for somebody, you notice, this person used to stay out, used to come out a lot, they used to be a bit more outgoing, signs of depression. They used to be a bit more, they used to come out a lot. Nowadays, I'm noticing they're not even going to work. They're not even really, doing self-neglect. They're not looking after themselves. Where they used to dress properly, now it's like they just don't care. Those are key warning signs. Staying in bed all the time. I mean, for me, I love sleeping, okay? So I think for me, those who know me really, really well, one of my biggest signs that I can easily fall into depression is when I'm not working. Like those people who know me like, oh, Monique, you always get a job. 2 key things about me. I love working. I love doing my job. So actually, if I'm honest, yeah, I like working. I don't like doing the wrong type of job. And what I feel like, if I'm doing a job where this is not really for me, this is not me, I lack motivation. Then what happens, I then end up leaving that job. And then what then happens is I come home trying to find a job. But in that trying to find a job, that transitional period, I can have a month where I'm just constantly at home worrying about certain things, worrying, or not even just worrying, but just thinking over certain things. That is one of the biggest, that for me is one of my triggers. That's me being honest. Not working, not having a job is actually one of my triggers for depression because I don't like it. I remember when I used to sign on, and I'm not saying it for anybody who does sign on, I'm just talking personally for me. Like when I used to sign on at the job centre when I didn't work, that's when I noticed it used to it made me feel like really bad. Like I just felt so down. I felt really, really down. So when people can say, oh, Monique, you always get a new job, or, if I lose a job and somebody says, oh, you'll get one really quickly. I don't take it for granted. It's some favour, some grace God gives to me anyway. But when I'm not working, that is when depression can hit me because it's just like, I feel useless. But that's my little testimonials. But noticing some of the signs and trying to help treat them early. I mean, some people, and I know this for a fact because I work in mental health and I'm around it all the time. Some people like to play on the fact that, yeah, I've got mental health, yeah, I may have been diagnosed. Some people, yes, there are some people, and I'm sure anybody watching this, some people where they'll blatantly blame everything. I mean, I'm not saying there are people who do that because there aren't people who their mental health stops them from doing a lot, but there are some people who play into it. Like I know a lot of people who play into their mental health, like, I've got mental, to be honest, mental health to me is not something that anyone should be ashamed of. It's not something that you need sympathy for. It's not something that you need pity for. It's not something that people need to sit down and cry with you about. Do you know what I mean? It's not like that. Most people with mental health who are just cracking on, of course, sometimes your mental health does stop you from doing that. People who have very high anxiety cannot go outside and be with people. To walk to the shop, it can give you a panic attack. Walking out of your door, even getting into a bathroom can give you panic attacks. Some people suffer from paranoia. When people say like, oh, you know what, I feel like people are looking at me, we can all laugh, joke, funny. But some people actually have levels of paranoia when they go outside and they can just see or sense and feel everyone is looking at them. And that's due to something in their mind, due to their brain. It's not a joke. Then you have the other people on the scale who make it really bad for some people with mental health because they're out here like just making a mockery of the whole thing. Like, yes, we know you've got it. You suffer with mental health issues, but don't play into it because you make it bad. It's like, I liken it to people, the Jamaicans, because everyone knows, like, I'm Caribbean, I'm Jamaican, so I can say this. But, some Jamaicans, made it really bad for the rest of Jamaicans to come to the UK. Like, some people be out here, not even just Jamaicans, but I think people on the whole made it. But I'm gonna say Jamaicans in particular, because when I was growing up, that was the only, well, I was in a Jamaican household, that was the only thing I ever heard. Oh, this person got deported, this person, because, you know, some people were just taking the mick, and they made it bad for the good people coming, and some ungenuine people, you know, knew they weren't coming for genuine reasons, and they would stay here or do something which made it bad for everyone else. So everyone else is tarnished with the same brush. That's just like mental health. Some people really make it bad, and so everyone has to be tarnished with the same brush. But back to what I was originally saying, you don't have to be, like I said, you don't have to be a doctor to recognize the warning signs. You don't have to wait for somebody to be go into crisis mode. What I've noticed from being in the mental health profession, and also dealing with it personally with relatives in my life, sometimes the mental health team will wait till you hit crisis point. And I don't know if that's a strain on some of the resources that we have. Obviously, hospital beds are very limited, but sometimes we don't always have to wait for crisis point. There are little warning signs that you can notice before somebody gets to that point where they're either suicidal, harming themselves, or harming someone else. Can I just say to everyone, if you see somebody on the street talking to themselves, laughing to themselves, being aggressive, okay, more than likely that person's not going to hurt you. There's this big perception of people with mental health that schizophrenics, people who hear voices, they're just out to kill you. Yes, unfortunately, you do have the ones where they hear you're going to harm them or hurt that person because they're going to harm you. I was in a situation where I was held hostage with somebody who's a paranoid schizophrenic, and I was held hostage. I was working and I was held hostage with her. And one thing she kept repeatedly saying to the voice was, I'm not going to hurt her. No, she's my friend, but I can't trust her. But she's my friend, but I like her. I was her key worker. No, she's my friend, but I can't trust her. No, I don't want to hurt. And she would frequently have a conversation with me. And my whole thing in that type of scenario was, oh my gosh. Admittedly, I was a little bit scared, because I'm just like, okay, I'm in a room filled with somebody and I'm not too sure what's going to happen. But in that situation, I just had to keep calm, because I'm just like, if I do anything, I don't know what's going to trigger her. But more times, people with mental health and those high level of like schizophrenics, paranoid schizophrenics, people with bipolar disorders, personality disorders, when they're having an episode or a crisis, they're more likely, it's more likely they're trying to hurt themselves than to hurt anybody else. So if you see someone on the street who is acting like that, more than likely they're not going to hurt you. The only time that they probably will be, they're probably verbally aggressive towards you, but most of the time they're not going to hurt you. If you do see somebody like acting like that, the best thing for you to do is to call 999, because that person obviously needs help and they need to get, you know, professionally helped. I can't sit here and tell you like hospital admissions are the easiest or the nicest places to be. I've been in, the last time I went to hospital was last year. I think that was the last time I went to a psych hospital, and it's not the nicest place to be, and it's one of the hardest things to do, you know, to send a loved one there or to see a loved one there. It's not easy, but the help is there. Do you know what I mean? They can get the help there. So that's the best thing to you to do. If you're dealing with somebody in your home who you're worried about, who you're thinking, this person, like, they're just not themselves, talk to them about it. Like, talk. If they don't want to talk, like I said in my previous video, you can't force anybody to talk to you. People talk when they're ready. You know, you can do subtle signs. Send them a text. Maybe they don't want to talk. Send them a text message. You can even write them a letter. If they live in your house, write a little note, put it under their door. Hi, you know, I'm here to communicate. The best thing you can do if you're noticing somebody's going into any form of these symptoms, of course, if it's like hearing voices, blah, 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 yeah, you need to call the mental health team, or you can take them to their nearest A&E. But if it's a low level like depression, anxiety, the best thing to do is talk. Encourage them to talk to you. Don't try and act like a therapist, because some people, you can, it's really difficult, especially if you're just first dealing with it. I'm not gonna lie. It's really hard to get people, especially if it's a loved one, to open up to you sometimes, because why sometimes do I find it, is it difficult? I just had a mind blank. But let me just say that statement again. Sometimes it's hard because the person who's going through it, they have to feel they can trust you. And it can be a really, really difficult person as a caregiver to somebody with mental health, because you're thinking that this person should trust me. Like, I'm here for this person. Don't take any of it personally. That is the key thing when you're dealing with somebody with mental health. Don't take anything they say personally, how they act personally. Most of the time, they tend to not mean it. They're just dealing with a lot, so don't take it personally. But try and encourage them, like, talk to me, let's talk about it. Like, if you want, I can come and sit with you. Who would you like to talk about? Ask those vital questions. Please, to the Caribbeans and the Africans, yes, we know, okay, prayer goes a long way. Yes, I know that. I believe in the power of prayer. Yes, if the person especially if you're dealing with a young adult or a young person, sometimes they may not find it easy to speak to a pastor. They may not find it easy to speak to, another adult. Find a trusted young person. Not, I'm saying if you're a child 16, go and find another 16-year-old. But find another person similar, not maybe similar, but, who probably doesn't have that big status that they could probably talk to. So if you see, okay, here's I don't know, an older cousin, or if you're at church, another young person, one of the younger people, young adults to talk to, or a family member who you think, okay, yeah, maybe they might do well talking to. Find somebody like that. Take them there. Go and, encourage them. Do you want to talk to so-and-so? Or you can even do something like where you say, oh, would you, speak to somebody you trust? Could you speak to XYZ, and could you just tell her, like, I think something's wrong? Do that. Sometimes the hardest conversation to do and the hardest thing to do with somebody who you feel like is suffering is to try and force them to get help, or force them to take them to the doctor, or force them to do this. You have to make it seem like a normal, gradual process. It has to seem like, okay, I know you're going through this and I want to help you in the best way I can. Sometimes they might tell you to leave them alone. Sometimes they might shout, they might scream. But like I said, don't take it personally. You just have to try and be persistent. Give them the space when they need it, address back when you need to, and always seek to try and get help. Like, you can call Samaritan, you can call the NHS SLAM crisis team. If you're in South London or Croydon, you come under SLAM. If you're in Lewisham, Southeast, like that kind of area, you come to Oxley. If you're in Wandsworth area, you come under, I believe it's Springfield. I don't know. I can't remember what it is. Springfield, that side. If you're more central, I'm not too sure. I've never worked in central, but I'm sure they have a great mental health team there. And just find out, like, you can go to a local GP. You can look on the internet for your local mental health team. Like, find out. I know SLAM covers a lot of South London and Croydon. SLAM does that. But you can just find out. Bromley, I think yours is definitely Oxley. Depending on where you are. It doesn't, you can just get help. Look online. Google's your best friend. Get help. You can get help, you can get help to go and do that. So I feel like the screen's, yeah, there we go, back into focus. So yeah, you can encourage people to do that. The second thing, that I feel like, not second, I don't even know what point I'm on now, but that's one thing, dealing with somebody at home, how to look for help, go and find help, and just be really encouraging. Like, it's not every day someone's going to want to hear, get out of bed, like, come on, do this. They're not, but slowly, surely coax them out, like, what can we do tomorrow? Like, can we set up a daily plan? What would you like to do? Would you like to do XYZ, or would you like to do this? Another thing that you can do for people, if they're willing, is take them to their nearest A&E. Every hospital should have a psych ward. If you're in Croydon University Hospital, have a psych team. If you're in Camberwell, King's College, have a psych team. If you're in Tooting, St. George's have a great psych team. Okay, I've experienced. They have a really good psych team at St. George's. All the psych teams are good, but St. George's, I think, stood out for me the most to be, I'm not being... they just had a really good psych team. Wherever you are, go to a hospital, go and see somebody from the psych team where you'll be assessed by doctors, nurses, not nurses. You'll be expected by a mental health nurse, a mental health doctor, practitioners, psychiatrists, and a team of mental health practitioners will come down and speak and look at you and assess and see what's the best plan of action if it so happens that you can't go to a GP. Your GP can sometimes also do self-referrals to like therapies, talking therapies, and other little things to help you out. Your GP can give you that if you go to a doctor. Like I said in my previous video, I'm not a fan of antidepressants because of the side effects that they have. When my doctor told me to go on antidepressants, I was very much like, no, like, you're going to find something else for me to do. Like, we're not doing antidepressants. I'm not doing that. And my thing is, if you can find like different ways, of course, it's a lot easier for some doctors to tell you just go on antidepressants. And I'm not saying that if your doctor does, obviously I'm not a doctor, but I just know antidepressants for me wouldn't work because I do a lot of research. But sometimes antidepressants work for some people, and if you need it, your doctor will. And you don't want to refuse medication to the point where you make yourself very unwell, and then you go to hospital, and then you've got no choice but to take medication, because then, yeah, it's very difficult. But speak to your doctor, and if you have any concerns, like I spoke to my doctor about what my concerns were, and that was okay for them to do an alternative route, because I just don't want antidepressants. But yeah, so I would, when dealing with other people, even if it's yourself, you don't be hard on yourself. And one thing that I've said to young people that I work with, some days are going to be really difficult. Some days are very hard. It's not every morning, it's not every day that I can say I can wake up and be like, yeah, let's kickstart, ready to go and start my day. It's not every day. Some days, if you feel like sitting in your bed and cry, that's the best thing you can do. If you feel like the next day, you want to chill and you don't want to do anything, you don't want to be around anyone, that is completely fine. Like, those days, those feelings, they're completely normal. Some days, your body, there's this meme that says your body picks up frequency, your body responds to frequency and waves and energies. Sometimes your body does do that. Like, sometimes you'll be around someone and you'll automatically feel a bit anxious. That's okay. You don't need to be around that person. I remember like being around a certain individual for me, two individuals. One, when I used to hear that the individual was coming around to me, that was the start of my panic attacks. And when I realized that I'm going to be in the space with this individual, it was horrible. It was so horrible. Like, I would be somewhere, think of it, and then panic. And I remember one day I was coming from work. This is when I was about 18. Was I 19? I think I was 19. I was 18 or 19, one of those ages anyway. And I was 19. And I was coming from work and I remembered, I've got to see this person tomorrow. And I literally was on the DLR at Cross Harbour. I never forget this. And I had a panic attack. And I had to get off the DLR and I had to sit and wait for the ambulance to come. It was oh my gosh, it was... But that was, yeah. So sometimes you don't need to be around certain people. If you're not ready, no one can force you to be around anyone. So don't take it on I'm going to try and stop this soon. But don't take it upon yourself. Like, don't feel bad if these things happen. Sometimes you just need more time. And if you're not meant to be with people and you're not meant to be around certain people that cause certain things to happen to you, you don't need to do it. Another thing that I just want to really briefly touch on is the perceptions. If we all can stop how we perceive people with mental health as scary individuals or we can't touch them, especially like in some churches, you see somebody with a mental health issue, oh my gosh, they're a demon, oh my, we really need to stop that. Stop demonizing mental health. That's the main thing that I can say. Like, having mental health doesn't mean you're a demon. It doesn't mean that you've got, oh my gosh, like, you know, Satan's all over you now. No, it doesn't actually mean that. I'm not saying that God doesn't heal people. God is able to heal anybody. But at that time, it's like if you're pregnant and you're going into labor, you're not going to sit in church. You're going to go to the hospital. It's the same with anything else. If you've sliced open your hand, you're not going to go and sit in church and ask for prayer. You're going to go to the hospital and get it sorted out. It's the same with your mental health. You can ask for prayer. You can ask everyone, oh, can you pray for me? I'm going into labor. Can you pray for me? I've sliced open my hand. Can you pray for me? I'm having this problem with my mental health. I need to go and see a doctor. Like, you know, God's given everybody the abilities, and he's given people abilities and the knowledge and the wisdom on how to deal with certain things. There's nothing wrong with going to get help. I wish I could have said this at the beginning, actually. There's nothing wrong with admitting you need help. There is nothing wrong with it. The greatest strength that you can have as an individual is admitting that there's something wrong and you need to get help. There is nothing wrong. Please don't feel like anything is wrong with getting help, with holding your hand up. I need help. You know, for me, I'm such a prideful person in the sense that if I need anything, I'm very rarely going to ask for it. And the more that I found myself opening up and speaking out and saying, do you know what? I can't do this on my own. I do need help. The happier I became. A problem shared is a problem halved with the right people. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. So if you're watching this and you know somebody who needs help, or you are someone who needs help, you know, feel free to speak to me. You know, ask me questions. I'm not going to say I'm not a mental health nurse. I'm not a mental health doctor. I just seem to know a lot of things about mental health. I've studied psychology and I've studied life. That's a good way of putting it. I've studied life. You know, I've seen a lot in mental health, and I would like to call myself a mental health advocate because it's something I'm really passionate about, especially in the Black communities, Black and ethnic minority communities. So yeah, if you want to know much more, feel free to get in touch, like, comment, share, subscribe, as you guys have been doing. And I hope this video helped you in some way. I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody. I am more than happy to support anybody going through that process. I know going through the process of getting mental health teams on board can be very difficult. And we always hear, oh, mental health resources are very limited, very stretched, but you still can get a good standard of care. For me, in my personal life and with the people I deal with personally, if that standard of care is not meeting to the point where I will call a number and people have to say, are you calling because of this or are you calling because of work? And that's not to big myself up. That's just because if I believe somebody needs it, or if I believe I'm working with you in whatever capacity, professional or personally, you're going to get that standard of care, just what I would expect for myself. So if you know anyone who does need the support, feel free to reach out to me. Everything is confidential, of course. Feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help or answer any more questions. If there are any topics that you guys would like to hear more about, anything you'd like to know more, if you want to, you know, ask me anything, I'm a very open person within reason, but I tend to be very open. You know, honesty and open and being transparent is one of my key things to doing this. And if you guys want to know any more or you want to hear anything more, let me know. And whatever I don't know, I'll research, and whatever I can give to you, I can give to you. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys like it, and stay tuned for the next videos because that will be coming, hopefully a little shorter than this one, but this time it gives you a little chance to reflect on what I've said. And it gives you a little chance to take in everything and get your questions together. So have a good evening. That's Monique Jumfor signing out for the evening. Bye.